guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you a 4D self-stirring cauldron, and it actually isn't self-stirring, but it looks like it is because the little stir stick goes through the nail on the underside, and then you can just turn that little stir stick and then it turns the whole mix, which is so cool. I'm actually really impressed with how well this turned out, and it's easier than it looks, I would say. So if you do decide to give it a try, don't forget to share recreations with me, and don't forget to check out Helen's cauldron. Hers is a little bit more evil feeling, I guess you could say, and I will see you next time. Bye! I am going to begin this nail with an overlay of a light minty green acrylic. Even though I have all of these witchy things with this design, I wanted to not make it seem scary at all for Halloween. I wanted this cauldron to look very, I don't know, natural and very holistic, more so than creepy and scary. So I'm going to just start with a light pastel color in the background. I'd either go with green or purple. It just seems like the right colors if you ask me. And then I'm going to encapsulate the nail with a layer of clear acrylic to make sure that it is nice and strong. That first layer of minty green that I did was just for color, so this is really where the strength of the nail comes into place, and that's a vital step. So then I'm going to be filing this nail into shape with my e-file to make sure that it is nice and strong, or nice and smooth. And then I'm going to drill a hole right through the nail underneath where I want the cauldron to be placed. So you have to consider where you want the cauldron to be placed, but also know that it is past your fingertips so that there's space underneath the nail to manipulate your cauldron. And then I'm going to take on a eyedropper, so the top of like a dropper bottle, I'm going to paint a layer of some clear builder gel around that, and then cure that in my lamp, and rotate your eyedropper as you're curing so it cures on all sides. After it's done, you can pop it off the eyedropper and you have a nice little dome. So now we're going to be sculpting our cauldron around that little piece of clear builder gel with black acrylic. And you want to create a pretty sizable ledge on the top of it. So you want there to be a lip. So when you look at the top of it coming down, it looks really thick. Almost like you're doing a like a smile line. You want to have that kind of a lip on here. So you don't want to just do a really thin layer over black or just paint it or something. You need to have an edge. So just sculpt it all the way around, cover the bottom as well. This is also where you can sort of fix the shape of your cauldron if for some reason if your eyedropper was too small or something to compare to the size of the cauldron that you want, or it didn't look quite right for some reason. You can fix it with the acrylic. So after I have the first layer, I'm actually going to go through and do a second layer around that edge, because that little lip is so vital to this design, because that's what's going to hold up the potion. And that's what's going to keep it so that you've got space to have a little groove for that potion to go around in, which makes this whole 4D design possible. So this part, don't rush it, and then definitely just keep looking at it and checking to see if it's thick enough. So as you can tell, because you can even tell that it's getting wider and wider and wider as I'm sculpting it, I've added quite a bit of product here, and that's really important. So just keep working on it until you're happy with the thickness, and you want probably a good 3 millimeters or so. But then I'm going to file the cauldron with a hand file to smooth out that top, and you'll see in just a second how thick it ended up being, and then file around the border. So just keep filing it until you're happy with the shape. When you add that much acrylic, having it end up being perfectly smooth is basically impossible. And so if you just want to give it a quick file to smooth everything out, make sure that it's as good as you want it to be, then that's all you need to do. So just keep working on it a little bit. It doesn't take too much to really hand file it with like a 180 grit at the minimum, or you can do, or at the maximum, I guess I should say. And then you can go through and do the little feet on the bottom of your cauldron. That's something that's optional, but I think it gives it a lot more of a realistic look to have the little feet so it stands up off the nail ever so slightly. And then I'm going to be doing a very long strip of black acrylic. So this is going to be a weird stage, and this is part of it where it gets a little bit tricky, I guess you could say. So you're just sculpting this long strip of black acrylic, flatten it out. You want it to be very thin, so just pat that out after you have it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to have almost like a piece of, I don't know, acrylic material. So let that set up until it turns matte. You still want it flexible and still slightly tacky, but you want it to hold its shape. So there's a balance there. So just really look at it. If you ever made a 3D bow, the same stage where you would fold the bow over is the stage where you want to start to do this thing. So you're going to take your cauldron and you're going to set it on the edge so that you have this extra bit of height around the edge of the cauldron. And you're going to roll it up so that you've got this extra, it's like a little booster around the whole edge of the cauldron. And then with your E-file, I'm going to be carving a hole right through the bottom of my cauldron. So now turn that cauldron over and you're going to trace it on a piece of paper. So hold it in place and just make a circle on your paper so that you know the exact size of your cauldron, and then lay a nail form backing over the top of your cauldron. So you can make a second circle inside, and that's just going to help you a little bit more. It kind of gives you, two guides. So then lay your nail form backing over the top of it, and on that nail form backing, you're going to take some green acrylic and you're going to be sculpting your potion. So you want the potion to be somewhere between your two circles, that inner circle and the outer circle. That's a sweet spot to make sure that your potion will still be able to move once everything's assembled. Then take a dotting tool and create a little hole, string a piece of wire through the hole in your potion, and then string that through the hole that's in the bottom of the cauldron. Then attach the wire to the potion with green acrylic, and after you have that, you're going to string the wire through the hole in the nail while gluing the cauldron to the nail but not getting glue on the wire. Oofta, that's a lot of information. And so then back to your nail form backing over your template, you're going to place a large bead of black acrylic down, and this is where you want to sculpt the rim of your cauldron. So you want to make that rim basically the shape of your template. So you've got that outer circle and the inner circle, and you want that rim to be that perfect size. So you've got that going on right there, and you can always file that too if it doesn't end up exactly how it needs to be. There's always room for filing. So just tuck in the sides until you have that perfect shape, or at least as perfect as you can get it. Then glue your rim to that very upper rim of the cauldron, being overly cautious not to get any glue on your potion or the wire stir stick. So string that over the wire, place that down on there, hold that until it's glued. Everything about this is making sure that the actual potion is not attached to your cauldron anywhere. That's the key here. Then after you have that, you're going to really secure that rim to the rest of the cauldron with some more black acrylic. So just every so often as you're doing this, give your little bit of a potion a good stir so that you make sure that it can still stir. So that all of a sudden you weren't working so hard on this to find out that your cauldron is stuck together somewhere, or that your potion is, immobile for some reason. So this design, once you kind of get an understanding for what's happening, is actually fairly easy. The shapes are all pretty basic. Nothing is too crazy, but it's getting that basic understanding of how it's going to work that is, I would say, complicated. But then afterwards, it's so much fun because it just stirs all by itself. So now in a nail form backing, you can create some ingredients for your potion, and you can have some fun with this and do basically absolutely anything you want. I decided to go forward and do a little bat wing because bat wings are just one of those classic things that I think of. I think of Eye of Newt, bat wings, graveyard dirt, etc. But a bat wing is certainly something. And then I'm going to be adding a little bone, like a little human bone in there. And so I've got that. I'm not doing that with like a pure white because, this is an aged bone. It's not something that's, brand new. It's probably been robbed from a graveyard maybe. So I've got an off-white, kind of a creamy tan color that I'll do for that. Then glue those ingredients in place into the potion. If you want to sculpt any ingredients directly on the potion, you can certainly do that too. I sculpted a little eyeball in there, which you'll see in a moment. As you're gluing those pieces in, make sure that they are not touching the rim of the cauldron too. So here's the little bit of acrylic for my eyeball. So I have a little bit of white acrylic, tiny bead, set down, make sure it stays as circular as you can get it. And then after you have that, you're also going to want to secure the little other pieces that you added in there with some more acrylic. So for the bat wing, secure it with a little bit of black, make sure it's not going to fall out for any reason. And same thing with the bone, add a little bit of that creamy color to the base of that to really secure it, and then add a whole bunch of little bits of that same green acrylic that you used to sculpt the potion, and just lay them down and then ignore them and let them spread out naturally as they want to. That'll give it kind of a bubbly, boiling texture. And then add some details to your ingredients with acrylic paint. I went through and I just did a couple little lines on my wing with white, and then I'm going to add the iris and the pupil on my eyeball, a couple little green highlights here and there, really subtle on my potion just to kind of amplify that bubbly texture. And then I'm going to do some highlights on my actual cauldron with gray paint. And because I'm using acrylic paint for this and not a gel product, it's non-toxic and it isn't going to be harmful if it gets on my skin, so I was blending it out with my fingertip. But now I'm going to be applying a layer of jewelry gel over the entire background of this design, a pretty thick layer as you can see. I want it to really grab my embellishments that I'm planning on laying down, and then apply a layer of gel sealer over the top of the jewelry gel so it won't be tacky at all once it cures. And now I'm going to place a variety of stones, charms, and rhinestones. I wish I had a little moon charm or, stud. I thought I did, and I looked and I dug through all of my stuff and I could not find it. So I used a little sun instead. But then I have a bunch of little tiny rough stones that I had, and I've never really found the perfect time to use them until now. And then to finish it off, I have some green rhinestones that I'm just going to place here and there. I didn't want the nail to be solidly covered with these types of embellishments, but just to have one here and one there to fill in the background as needed. So it looked nice and full. Like the witch left all kinds of ingredients just around that she wasn't going to use for this potion, but she was going to save for the next one. And after you have all those and you're happy with their placement, you can cure it. And then I'm going to apply a little bit of a gold jewelry gel, or not jewelry gel, a gold gel paint to my stir stick, and cure that. Finish it with a layer of gel sealer, and then that is it, you guys. I am so in love with this nail. The movement of the actual cauldron and how it can look like it's self-stirring because you're stirring it under the nail and then it stirs above it is just so incredibly cool, and I'm just so happy with it, how it turned out. I hope you guys love it as much as I do, and if you do decide to make a recreation, please share it with me on Facebook or Instagram because I'd love to see it, and I'll see you next time. Bye!